So, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Plus Podcast, and welcome, Miles. Thanks for being here today. Um,
Course.
I didn't tell you this before we hopped on, so it might be a little surprise, but we always ask for someone's like favorite Bible verse, or like we call it a sports verse. So that's something that
hmm
maybe you've clung to in your journey of faith and athletics. So yeah, is there anything that comes to mind for your favorite sports verse?
Yeah, I have like a kind of a obscure one. It's from Job. I don't even know the number, but it's I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. And then there's
Mm,
another one, but that's the main thing. So it's Job like 46:19 or something like that. I'm not too into the actual numbers of the verses. I like the stories more, but yeah. So,
you know
but
what's
it's
in there.
helpful to
That's good.
navigate the
That's good.
Bible.
Wait, say it one more time.
My favorite, what is it? I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted.
That's
So
good.
the other ones, many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. And then there's like a bunch of other ones, but those are the top two that go through my head while I'm playing.
That's good.
So
Do you feel that like that being a comfort or like I guess just something in your mind as you've gone through your volleyball career because you're like, hey, win or lose, or if my plan doesn't work out, you know that God has like another plan.
I think that's one of the biggest things with those verses is it definitely helps you know that there's something bigger than the volleyball and that there's a bigger world that you're a part of. So
That's
those
good.
verses definitely hit home at that idea.
Okay, that's good. Um, so one thing that I kind of gathered listening to a little bit of you speaking and maybe just on Instagram as well, but I think you've referred to your faith as like a spark from God and how it's your job to like fan it into flame. And I think that's really cool. First of all, that image
Research.
is really
Yeah.
cool. But also I was reading I'm reading Second Timothy right now and I'm doing like a Bible study with that. But that's where that verse is like comes from. And it's like Paul talking to Timothy as like a younger mentor saying like, okay,
Mhm.
like, can you fan into flame this gift of God that's been given to you through the laying of my hands? And so I was like, that's a cool connection. But also, I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
about like kind of that theme of, I guess, mentorship, and also if there's been people in your life, like impactful people that have kind of helped you fan that into flame, whether it be like family, just mentors, friends, or like other Christian authors, speakers, or if you think it's kind of been more of you just being really interested in faith and kind of like stewarding that yourself.
For sure, mentors. Yeah, I think that's the best way to grow up in any world. So yeah, mentors definitely kicked it off. They led me to water, but yeah, I drank too. So uh, it was both.
Did you grow up in
Yeah,
the church? Like,
I did. Yeah, my parents, family, brother, like our extended families and stuff. So we're kind of like a Midwest, Arizona, Colorado
okay,
transplant to California. So
cool, cool, cool.
yeah.
And when do you think like I guess your relationship with God became more than just like something you grew up with? Like when did it kind of become more real for you, if you can think of a kind of a time?
For sure, yeah, it's been a journey. Definitely a few like exponential growth periods, but 12 years old, definitely started to make it more my own. Started to sort of open my eyes to the world of fallen world, I guess. So yeah, and then grappling with that more when I was 12. So I learned a lot about forgiveness and also the flip side of that sort of shame. But the forgiveness out of that shame was very pivotal.
Mm,
So I was 12. Let's see, the Christian camps, as many Christians have gone to the Christian camp, summer camp vibe things, they get the camp high. So like camp highs at each of those were pivotal. But really more the thing at 12. And then my dad, he was a great mentor. My mom too, and my brother. So they've just continually, but there's a few pivotal things with them in their lives that also I got to see and see the power of God in them. So yeah, that experiential experience of seeing someone else real, not like online too though, really helps. And so watching my dad get transformed in a way even more and by the love of God, it's really cool.
yeah,
I was like 16, 17. And then my brother has always taken his faith pretty seriously. He read me the Bible growing up when I was
cool.
12. Like I didn't even ask him to. So uh, yeah, that was cool. Always looked up to him, always followed in his footsteps and basically everything, like literally school, sports, friends, like interests. I'm becoming independent now because he's like left the house, but yeah. But I'm fine with that. I'm not like trying to be independent just to be independent. Like I love my brother, so be following him
Right.
is honor to get close to where he is spiritually. So yeah, he's been cool. I had some great roommates in college. They kept me in a good influence, especially in the sports world. That's really sports world is actually pretty spiritual relative to students, but like out of school, but they are definitely a little more party heavy. They're not party heavy. They're just like normal amount of party heavy. So for colleges, so that was good to have like some good roommates who were less into that stuff. But you know, there's still value at the parties too. Meet people and learn. So
Really.
not that they're inherently bad, but yeah. So I mean, I kind of dodged that trap though a lot in college, which is cool. And then but yeah, the sort of the college experience, and then then I left the UCLA indoor team, which was kind of hard, but also a good decision for me to pursue the Olympics for beach volleyball, and then I did that, like the process for qualifying, and then we actually qualified, and then we played it, and now it's like 2 months later. So that is my whole life,
There's a
volleyball-ish,
quick
volleyball God
Sparkle
version.
story.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. So, so going back to college, it's funny because I think a lot of people, college is like this interesting divide where a lot of people's faith totally comes to life, or it's like that time when
yeah,
you're in the world more heavily and your parents aren't there. If that was the one, if they were taking you to church, maybe they're not taking you anymore. So it can kind of either grow
for
your faith
sure.
or not grow it. And so it sounds like for you,
Yeah,
it wasn't like heavily either or, but like it did push you in the right direction. And that's probably because you said you were surrounded by friends that were also heading in that direction. Um,
yeah.
you sound
Yeah,
like,
that was huge. The whatever the Proverbs verse is about the five, or maybe that's just a church saying that you're a product of the five closest friends. So,
yeah,
yeah, it's good to have close friends that are good influences. And I mean, yeah, I've had some really good friends. I haven't had like I was never the popular one in school and stuff, but I do feel like I had some really good friends growing up. So it was always cool to see the value of that versus like the surface level kind of friendships. So.
that's cool.
Uh, yeah, the friends really helped. Yeah, and when you get to college, it's for sure like a fork in the road for your
Yeah.
development. And you're kind of that's like the private school, public school, homeschool debate. Like, well, if you send your kid, if you homeschool your kids, they're not going to be like exposed to the pressures of the world in a protected environment. So then when they get to college, they're just fully exposed. Like it's
Yeah.
too quick of a jump. So then sometimes that's like a justification for like private school or even public school, as far as like nurturing your kids and bringing them up in the way of the Lord. So yeah, I mean, pros and cons. So
Yeah, it's true. And
yeah,
and so I'm guessing you've been playing volleyball like most of your life because you made it as far as you did.
yeah.
Um, was it always like, did you find the sport and you're like, this is what I'm gonna do? Or was it a little bit, I don't know, more unconventional? Or what was your start in volleyball? And then I guess how, if at all, did that kind of relate to how you thought about faith from a young age? Because I think a lot of people have these stories. This is a longer question than I intended it to be, but I guess a lot of people have these stories of like as their sport gets more and more serious, like their faith
Mhm.
can also get more serious because they actually have to like rely on God for something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious if you've had like experiences like that or if they've been intertwined at all.
That's a great question. Yeah, they've been intertwined, for sure. They can also like push you away. So I was 11 years old, started playing. My mom just let us do the water polo tryouts, the swimming tryouts, basketball tryouts, baseball. You know, we did everything. She just wanted to see what would stick. They probably would have forced us to do something, but they were never of the mind to force us to do anything in general. But for sure, they want us to be active. They would have drawn the line there. So thankfully we took on to something. I played soccer and tennis before that, so a lot of that mechanically, strategy, and like so spiritually or mentally kind of transferred to the volleyball. But yeah, volleyball when I was 11. I was kind of part of the nerd crowd and sort of, or I was a nerd in elementary school and just still am. So yeah, it's been a cool journey. I have learned to embrace it. Used to be more insecure about it, but so yeah, I've been doing that since I was 11 for volleyball. Kept doing it. Played with my brother a lot. A big part of like what I want to do with volley knowledge is to encourage people to play like one-on-one games because I feel like it's how so many people get better,
That's cool.
including me and my brother, and then also some of the best beach volleyball players and volleyball players. I think did that growing up. So I got to play one-on-one with him, and that definitely challenged my faith, I guess, to bring it back to the faith with the sport. I guess it just always challenges it. You always need help. Yeah, it's easy. Like sport can push you towards God, and when it's treated appropriately, and then it can also, be your identity and stuff. So that's a
Yeah.
huge thing with like athletes and athlete ministry. With all the praise, like testing your heart, the criticism too, failure. Um, yeah, failure can corrupt you, winning can corrupt you. It's a dangerous field because winning and losing happens so much, but uh, it definitely teaches you life. I think it's definitely an accelerated way to learn life as
Yeah.
just any sport. So um, it's really a no brainer, I think, especially in the materialistic like modern city world where you're not farming and really seeing nature play out in a tangible material way. Um, it's definitely useful to play sports because every city has those. So the patterns are all over, but they're clear in sports with winning and losing, and
Yeah.
participation trophies are like clearly not like legitimate, even though they are in sports. Like it's obvious that you lost, or won. That's like the crux of sports. So, um, yeah, it's obvious. So, like any culture that's trying to make everything equal and stuff like that, sports is a great way to
Yeah.
learn. Like, no, everything's not equal. There's hierarchy to stuff. You're better, you're worse. You get better, you can get worse. You can stay the same.
Yeah.
I really like how sports can force that. It's
Yeah.
like math and sports, like no one can touch. So I studied math in college, like whatever culture that is like making colleges education like not that valuable anymore, they can't really touch math or sports. So I got both of those in college. So I enjoyed my college. I'm like I appreciated it. But a lot of those classes, man, those are just big waste of time and money. So I
Interesting.
took some of them, but it wasn't like my whole major. So
It's funny that you bring that up because I think it was another podcast you were on or something like that. But you were saying how you think like competition is going to be in heaven someday. And
yeah, I think so. That
I
makes
never
sense.
like thought about that before, but I don't know, it's an interesting like conversation, I guess. Because it is true. You
I
learn.
think the nature what
No, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I think the Bible talks about like the rewards, right? Like Hebrews is like faith is the conviction of things unseen, the
Yeah.
assurance of things hoped for. And in order to have faith, you must believe that God rewards those who seek Him. So, I mean, He rewards those who seek Him, and that has to mean, I think, that He doesn't to those who don't. So, like a little bit with common grace, but not as much. So, and especially in heaven, like the Christian motivation for like doing things, since it's all like not by works and by faith only, but there is the rewards thing in heaven. So it's like
That's
you
true.
rack up basically like heaven points, the basically like the better Christian you are, but you know, crassly. So or the more you love God or whatever, the more you serve Him and
Yeah, it's told.
whatever, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. So that like that is kind of a competition a little bit. I mean, there's unlimited resources and rewards, so it's not a scarcity thing, but there's definitely going to be more and less rewards in heaven based on your life here.
Mhm.
So to me, there's already a hierarchy that's explicitly guaranteed in the Bible with that. And then I can't help but imagine that what you do has, like, you'll reap what you sow there.
Mhm.
So the if you don't reap what you sow, that's like the essence of competition. You reap what
Right.
you sow. So like if that law that's like intrinsic to creation, even before the fall in Genesis, like that's got to be intact in heaven. I think. I
Yeah.
think it is.
Interesting. Interesting. We'll find out someday. Um, and then something else I've heard you talk about that I think is really cool is you might need your whiteboard for this one. This is my where it might come out. But
Oh,
the power of like perspective and the power of like the story that we tell ourselves. And
yeah,
I think like I remember you talking about how you had to like go through a season or something where you like genuinely thought of yourself as like a loser. And before you
yeah,
develop, before you develop like the because I said so mentality, which I've heard other people talk about too.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, just hoping you could talk a little more on
So
that. I think
I've
that's
walked that back like a little bit in my head, but I'm at a good like middle point now that I'm like satisfied with. But yeah, I mean, well, I guess I can just talk about it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the thing with winning is like I've looked at a lot of people who are good at winning games, like especially at the end of games when the pressure's high, and they do seem to think that they just will win regardless of whatever. They just think they're going to win, whether they're playing well or bad. They just think they're better than everyone else, and that they're just going to win because they believe it. Not even because they just do believe it. I don't know why. So yeah, our coach at UCLA had a theory that those kids just like made the game winning point when they were like 12 years old, and then on they just thought that they were like the clutch master, and they would
yeah.
just and then the kids who didn't put them down on like a slippery slope on the other side of the mountain. And they slid down that and they started to become unconfident. So maybe it's like a little impetus when you're like 12 years old or whatever, that sets you on the winner or loser sort of mentality. But I don't really like any of that. I do, and I do see the power of believing you're going to win. Because if you go into something and you believe you're going to lose for sure, it's really hard to be motivated. Like
Yeah.
if I was going to play you in water polo, like I would try, but I would really try to believe I could win. Like I know that helps me win, but I'd probably lose, you know? And it'd be hard to like stay motivated for a long period of time. If I was only playing you, I would have no flow state because flow state is when it's like not too hard and not too easy. It'd be way too hard and I would just give up. So yeah, with the winning thing, like, yeah, I think you can win, but I also think there's a lot of value in knowing your place. I think that's huge. And if your place isn't rightfully as someone who could probably bet on winning, like don't do that. Even if it's true. Or even if you could, because I think it's kind of like asserting yourself in a more godlike role when you
Mhm.
think you should win. Like if I was gonna play you, I don't think I should think I should win. I should still think I should do my best and play hard, but not probably think I should win. Maybe you could, but regardless, never thinking you should anything never helps in sports. Like
Right.
so regardless, it really doesn't. But thinking you are going to is a little different. And I have seen the people who believe that are really good under pressure. They just are. So you have to believe, and that goes back to the faith thing. Like you have to believe that you'll be rewarded, you know, by
Right.
God to like the whole altruism thing where it's like I'm going to serve God just for free, like is total BS to me. I mean, like God is rewarding you. I mean, yes, there's also the fact that like He's already rewarded you so much with
Right.
salvation. Like you're just in perpetual like life that to Him, but He still is like rewarding you for like what you're sowing on this earth. He's gonna reap. He's gonna judge like your actions at the end of your life. Still, even though you're forgiven, your actions will still be judged and contribute to the rewards you receive
Mm.
as your heavenly reward. So sort of bringing that to volleyball, or sports, but yeah, volleyball, like people who believe they put in hard work that they'll be rewarded by
Yeah.
the game of volleyball is like really important, or else you give up. Faithless people are hopeless too. So, and they give up. So,
Right. So you're
I mean, it's super
basically
important to think you can win, but it's also not good to think you should win. And then if you think you're gonna win, it's fine, but you have to deserve it. You can't
so
just like
right.
want it for free.
So it's like a difference. There's a difference what I'm hearing you say between like I will win because of I have faith that I will win because of like the work I've put in and the reps I've done and things like that versus I should like
Yeah.
I like personally deserve to win because I'm great. Like there's a difference in those two trains of thought.
Yeah, it depends what world you're considering. If you're just in the volleyball world, maybe you should think you should. But then in the macro world that we
Yeah,
really
that's
like
true.
fully live in, like you don't deserve anything. So I think it's good. It's like different levels of zooming in. So if you're just zoomed into the volleyball world only, yeah, you probably deserve to win if you put in more work and you're also more talent. Like the mix of talent and work is like how good you are. So like if that is more than someone else, yeah, you should win. Like I think you deserve it. But still, sometimes there's upsets. I think it's fine to think about. It's like a truism, but it's not helpful. And you want to do stuff that's helpful at all
Yeah.
times when you're playing a sport. There's not enough time to do anything unhelpful. And really, for your whole life, you shouldn't do anything that's unhelpful to
Yeah.
your ultimate mission. So it's all the same. But yeah, so thinking you're going to win, even though it might be true, is not a helpful thought. It's more helpful to think about like this current moment and
Mm.
what's going on. So
So kind of changing that from the idea of winning to more of like the process of what do I need to do to get there? Is it like more actionable?
yeah, process. Or I mean, I'm a big fan of John Wood, and he's like the greatest coach of all time to me.
Yeah.
He is very helpful in winning. So it's funny. He said never let a player. I'll look it up. He said never let a player ever think about winning. What do you say, John Wood and winning? Don't let them think. Uh, don't. I don't. Uh, there was a quote from John Wooden about like never letting his players focus or even think about the idea of winning. And just playing their best and having his definition of success be
Right.
reached by the end of each game. So, which was like success is the peace of mind that you've done the best to become the best you're capable of becoming, and that's it. So you can win with that, you can lose with that, you can win without it and lose without it.
Mm.
So it's basically irrelevant which what happens after the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Um, and I guess like connecting that, I guess the powers of like mantras, you could say, like I'm gonna win or I'm the best, things like that, convincing yourself that you are, it builds confidence going into those big games and stuff, especially when you need more of that. And I think that's powerful, and even like in a secular environment. But what could be more powerful potentially is like having that story, but like bringing God into the story of like I'm the best, like I am capable of doing this, like because God is with me, and so like who can be against me?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. But you're probably not the best. I mean, you might be. You might actually be the best. I don't know. I like being true, but more important than that, do what's beautiful. But if it's not true, like I don't like thinking it. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's hard to tell if you're the best. Sometimes you are. So you can say that. But
So
I
would you
don't
say
think
it doesn't even
like
matter?
two people can't say that
Yeah.
at the same time. Like only one person is truly the best, but they can fight for it. They're like fighting for it. And to fight for it, maybe you need to say that. But at the end of the day, like by definition, best is like
So what
only
would you
one,
replace
unless there's
that
like a
with?
direct tie.
Like in
What?
your what would you replace that with, like in your mind? Like you're heading into a match, you're like, okay, I know God's with me. Like I'm just gonna do my best. Like I'm just gonna play because that John Wooden
Yeah,
quote
I'll
where
just
it's like,
go for success,
wow,
like the peace of mind that I did my best, my
wow.
best, like not, the best. Like that sucks. I'm not going to be, if I play you in water polo as a volleyball player, I'm a baby water polo player. I'm like, not even a baby. I don't even exist in it. And like if I think that I'm the best because I heard it from some sports psychologist that, or like some Mamba mentality thing, from Kobe, which I love Kobe, but like he was a master when he said that he wasn't baby. So
Yeah.
I don't think I should say I'm the best when I play you. I just rather go for my best, and then I can leave happy that I did my best, even if I lose.
That's so
And
interesting.
God's a God of like contentment as well as many other things, but that's one of them. So stuff
Right.
that's like impossible to be content after is like not from God, probably. Or at least like the joy of the Lord should be like semi-permanent or like fully permanent if you're truly following him. It doesn't like go away.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
supposed to. Maybe if you sin or like stray from him and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah.
No, we've talked about that on here before, that happiness is something that can kind of go up and down with wins and losses and getting an A on your test versus
Yeah.
not. Whereas joy is something that should be and is, if you're following God, like consistent and it's consistently at the
Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference.
right.
I've heard. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, to me, it's kind of the same thing, but yeah, I've heard that dichotomy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've also heard like I think it was your partner was Andy Benesh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He
Banish, yeah. It might actually be Banish, but people say Banish.
Okay, Benish. He was saying in some article that like you get more excited when you guys do something like awful than when you win, because you like have somehow found some contentment with like failing and that ability to like see something wrong, I don't know, fix it, and then like move forward in that process of I guess just that whole process. But it's funny because I think like if you took a poll of college athletes in the US, like very few of them would say yes, like I love failing, you know? Um
Yeah, it's no one loves. I hate failing. I hate it. I don't like failing. It sucks. I'm not gonna ever fail again. I will never fail again. No, the only way you can like I think of it in terms of numbers, like bringing it back to very simple math. So I didn't need to study this in college, but I did. I did do math. But like positive one is winning, negative one is losing. But if you multiply negative one by negative one, you get a positive one again. So it can all be positive. Just if you lose, you need to multiply by negative one. If you fail to do that, then you are like negating yourself, and that will diminish you and like ultimately destroy you. But if you learn from it, which is kind of like negative one, another negative one is learning, then it's like a win. So
mm.
if you multiply your losses by negative one, and then your wins are also positive one, then you're just adding positive numbers all the time. So that's why losing is good, is because it can even be a bigger positive than winning sometimes. And it often is, but it's good to have a balance because if you lose a lot, you can give up. Unless you have like a really high failure, like armor or resilience. And the more resilience you have to failing, the better you'll get at anything.
So
The faster you'll get.
if you like I don't know, lost a game or something like that, are you someone that like looks at that, you're like, okay, what is everything I did wrong? Like what are the things I can do better? Or I guess what's the alternative to that? Kind of just being like,
What did I do right?
yeah, what did I do right? Or just like, okay, that sucks. Like I'll move on, I'll let it go, kind of move on, like new game coming forward.
Yeah, letting it go is kind of I'd rather learn from it as much as I can and negate all of it. I feel like letting go is good after you learn from it. And if you don't have time to learn from it, then let it go. But and
Mm.
you probably will learn better if you let it go. So maybe let it go first and then learn. But letting it go is also a way of like detaching yourself, I guess, from the results, which is probably good. But I'd rather go ahead and negate it. So you have to go into the trenches of like how bad it felt to do whatever that happened that was like bad, and then learn from it. So and learning is like a form of death, like resurrection and whatever. Like you have your opinion, and then it dies, and a new one comes. That's like learning.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
uh, or like if you just keep the same opinion, you didn't really learn, or maybe it was challenged and you learned. But if you learn something new, it's like your old idea died, and the new one replaced it, or it rose up as like more redeemed and stuff. So,
Or even just like admitting that you're
so
wrong.
that's why it's like a negative one thing. Yeah, admitting you're wrong. That's big. So I feel like you could let it go without doing that, but letting go is good terminology. And
Mm.
I have trouble letting it go. I usually need to try and learn from it, and that's something I could probably do better is letting go
Yeah.
and
And I
just
feel
accepting that sometimes you lose and you don't need to learn from it every time.
yeah. And yeah, I think kind of you said it earlier, but like that idea of God isn't really counting. I don't know. I don't personally think he's necessarily counting our wins and losses here on earth in terms of like trophies and medals and like the stature that comes with that. But he is definitely
Yeah,
counting our work ethic and like what you're bringing to the table.
yeah,
And so as much as we can like I guess get away from like the end result because God's really about the end results and more about like who you're becoming, what
right.
you're representing in the process. It sounds like that's how you think about that too.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it depends what level and world you're looking at on that pyramid. But like, yeah, I mean, God's really concerned about who we ultimately become. It's just like isn't there yet. So these are all just checkpoints. But but like when you make world sports your whole world, and then when you win or lose, and that's like who you ultimately are,
Right.
then like the God of sports, who's not a good God to worship or serve, will say you're not good enough. But if you look at like the ultimate God, like he's just like, oh, like you're never like good enough. You're still on your way, like all the way up to me once you die.
Totally.
And then even in heaven, you're still like ascending to sort of what's the word to revel in the glory of God because you can't see all of God's glory. Like you're not, it'll burn you up. So you have to become like more and more worthy of it. And
Mm,
that's like the process of heaven once
mm,
you die. That's how I've heard it explained. So,
yeah. And also,
I mean, yeah, you basically never, if you can extend your goal like infinitely in advance, which is just what religions do, like that gives you a lot of security because you're basically guaranteed to be like process minded. So you're like, wait, whatever you do, it's like, because you just never get there. And it's like implied
yeah.
by the infinite of it.
Yeah, and it
So,
makes sense in that when you think about it like that, why James and a lot of other people, Paul too, like talk about how like trials are really a blessing and like we need to rejoice when we face trials.
yeah,
It's almost like that idea of failure. Like when we do face trials of many kinds, like our faith is being grown and we are becoming more like that person that God ultimately needs us to be before we can ever
right.
meet him face to face, right?
Yeah. You rejoice because, like you said, your faith is being grown. Like that's why. It's not because you just rejoice at failure.
Right.
Like you said it. Like, but that verse ends with because of the steadfastness that your faith is being moved towards or whatever
That's good.
increased. So, yeah, it's because of something. I mean, that's like the negation of it. It's like bad negated is good. So, like trials, but they also give you something else, and then it's good.
Mm,
And that's why you should rejoice. Because it can still like form you into a person closer to God, like kind of building that tower to heaven or whatever. So you can see God more clearly.
right, right.
Sports do that pretty quickly.
That's true.
So
That's true. And
yeah,
on your blog, I think you talked about actually I have a quote here, I'll just read it, but you said like talking about like a firm foundation. And I think we kind of touched on it, you touched on it on that last comment, but you said like it can pull strongly to self-centeredness when everything is focused on you, your routine, your work ethic, your ability to have it and perform under pressure,
yeah,
your expectation, and manifesting by your belief in yourself. And so I think it's pretty clear about like that quote, but the idea of like when we're building either confidence or like I don't know, we've talked a little bit about it already, but this idea that sport it can get very like self-centered very fast because like you said, when you're winning, you ultimately are winning for this god of sport, and that's not a great god to be serving, or that's really no god.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it can be.
It
Yeah,
can.
that's true. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a great quote.
if you say
That's
so
such an awesome
yourself.
quote. I wonder who wrote that. I'm just kidding. It's basically a combination of other quotes, but yeah.
Um, that's good. But I guess how have you I don't know if you have anything else to add on this, but my main question out of that quote was just like, how have you balanced like going into things confident
Mhm.
while ultimately knowing that the ultimate like foundation is not about you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it really goes back like, well, in volleyball, yeah, it's not only about you and then like, but it can be like people who are really good at winning are like that a lot. So that's what I found. I felt like maybe the people who really, really believe they're going to win for sure every time, they have a really high belief in something.
Mm,
And it might be themselves. And maybe it's fine if their belief in God is stronger. Maybe they just have really strong beliefs across the board. But if that's their strongest belief, then that makes sense. So they just believe in themselves, like they're their own God. They reap. I think Jesus said at some point, like they have their reward already. Like
right,
it's not
right.
going to be in the afterlife, but like truly, I say to you, they have the reward. Like the Pharisees, like stealing the money, like there's their reward. Like good for them. Um, seriously, kind of good for them. Like that's the only reward they're going to get. So uh, I guess with winning, if you believe in yourself so much that it supersedes your belief in like God or something higher than you, then you'll have like a really strong belief you will win, but like losing will crush you. And then like, but you'll be really confident. You'll be like super confident if you really believe in yourself. So, I mean, that's why people who do that win. And they like, yeah, they win. And they sort of build a following, but it's not like pointing to something higher. It's kind of towards themselves inherently because they're believing in themselves. But there's another way you can, believe in God, and ultimately he's like way more powerful too, and like durable and long lasting. But the confidence thing you're talking about versus like, I guess like believing you will win versus like just doing what you can to win. It's like the exact same thing as the free will versus like determinism argument.
Mm.
Like, have you heard of that ever in Christian circles? Like, God gave us free will, but then He's also sovereign and like knows everything that's going to happen. So, like,
Yeah, yeah.
which one is it, God? Like, pick. It's kind of like that. So it's like, well, maybe it's free. Maybe I'll choose the deterministic route and be like, oh, I'm for sure going to win. Nothing's going to stop that. It's already written in the history books or the future books. But then there's the free will sort of part where it's like, no, and nobody knows is going to happen. Like, not even God, because we have free will. And then it's like, do everything you can right now to win and don't make any claims on the future because you just don't have any power over that. So it's like, and then it's like, if you're the God of your own story, then it's you think you have the power to like determine the future. Um, and that's why they're super confident. They think they do. They really think they do. And they're like stubborn because when they lose, they still think they do for the next one, which is great. I love that about sports and that people can like believe in themselves despite failure. It's really cool. Some people really have that kind of like an X factor kind of thing. But I think you can learn it. And then, but yeah, so free will, determinism thing, and then that's like what you can take into your own volleyball game. But there's like a dichotomy between those things too. And the only thing that breaks the tie is like what's more beautiful. So I used to think only truth is the most supreme thing, like just believe everything that's true and then you're good. And then I realized, no, there's a lot of things that are true, but the order in which you think them is ranked by which one's the most beautiful. And then you go down the list. So like free will and determinism are both kind of true, but they're kind of competing. But there is a beautiful mix of them where you kind of do both at the same time and like it's just a mix, and
Mm.
then that's the most beautiful. So I think that's the best way to do it. And I've heard with so I think confidence is like a mix of like believing you're going to win, plus knowing that the outcome isn't certain and that you need to work really, really hard because nobody knows what's going to happen, and it's
Mm.
just up to God. But then also it's like okay, it's already set in stone, and like we're just sort of on this preset path. Like it's good to pray or to play. Wait, what is it? The phrase I like is to pray like everything depends on God and live like it all depends on you. So like in before the point starts, you can know that it all depends on God and that He's decided, or before the match starts, or in between things. But then when you're actually playing, um, play like it all depends on you, and then like that is the most beautiful thing that'll lead to the most wins. I think that's what I try to do as I think of it. Um, so it's kind of a mix.
That's cool. I've
I think
never,
that's the best. Like
yeah,
confidence plus like the confidence in the outcome plus like the sense of urgency of like not knowing the outcome, like a
right,
mix.
right.
And the
That's
best
so cool.
balance is like the best mindset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a cool quote, especially because like I don't know, I feel like I could relate to that a lot going into games. I'm praying like obviously for the old like the win or whatever we're playing for. Um, but then I think the second the whistle blows, I feel like most of that goes out of your mind anyways, or for you when you serve,
Right.
like most of that goes out of so what you're doing is just what
And
you've
then
been
you're
doing
like playing like it all depends on you. What'd you
exactly. You're
say?
you're doing what you've done 1,000 times with I mean, like tons of reps. Um,
Yeah.
but ultimately having that ultimate mindset of like this all depends on God, win or lose.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're gonna go back to that. Like, okay, we lost, like
Right.
that was the plan for today. It doesn't make me a loser, it doesn't make me better. It's just that what happened today. And like now what can I do
Yeah.
better? And then when you win, it's like, okay, we won, that's great, but like still all glory to God. And like that wasn't my own doing, even though I am playing with like the gifts he's given.
Right. Even though you kind of did it. Yeah. It's like a contradiction. Like it's like but it's a beautiful one. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're like kind of holding both at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's also I just came across this idea, or I guess it's not a new idea, but I just came across it like how in the context of like our gifts and our talents and stuff, I think we're very good at critiquing ourselves. And then I came across
Hmm.
the idea like, okay, if we are God's creation and we're constantly like picking ourselves apart, like really we're just like belittling God and saying like he didn't do a good job with the creation that he's made. And so having like one layer
Yeah.
of confidence in like what he's done, which is still believing in ultimately in God, um,
Yeah.
and then like using that to kind of fuel like your own confidence and gifts and things like that. So yeah, that was like kind of another way to
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. When you like just pick apart, that's like the shame sort of pollution cue kind of. It's like when you feel shameful, you're like, bro, like God forgave you. Like
yeah,
you're saying he's not big enough to forgive you. Like stop feeling shameful. Like it's not on you. So yeah, it's the same thing. Like don't pick apart yourself and like tell God what he made wasn't good. At least the good parts of it for sure.
right, right. Goes both ways. That's interesting. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk, of course, about your experience in Paris as it's like the biggest stage, I'm sure, in sport. Well, in sport in general, but I'm guessing also in the volleyball world. Is there anything bigger than Olympics? Or is that kind of it?
No, for sure not. I
Okay.
mean, like, I mean, just sort of the amalgamation of like multiple Olympics is bigger. But yeah, like for any single event, yeah,
Yeah,
Olympics
yeah.
is the biggest. But
Um, so you're on that stage, all eyes on you. First of all, I guess it's just an honor to be there, but I guess now
mhm.
being on the other side of that like whole experience, what I guess first question would be like, what do you know now, being on the other side of it, that you kind of wish you like knew going into it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, there's a lot I wish I knew. I wish I knew. Yeah, the biggest thing I learned was the strengths thing. So like learning to embrace your strengths, which is why I said at the beginning, like I was kind of insecure about being a nerd, and now I'm sort of embraced it. But like still trying to not have like grow, but still embrace that. So and that's like embracing your gifting, like you're saying, not just picking it apart. Because I'm like very perfectionist tendency leaning. So I would often pick myself apart, and it made me really good at volleyball, but it
Mm.
also made it like painful, I
Yeah,
guess. I don't know. I just learn. There's always so much learning, so it's like
yeah.
learning is kind of painful. So, I mean, no, I loved it though. I really like the journey I've been on for volleyball. But yeah, so since then, I've much more embraced my strengths. Like, what am I good at? How can I hide what I'm bad at? So it's like a fixed mindset, which is funny. I've kind of swung the other way around. I used to be like full growth mindset. Now I'm like mixed. It's the same thing as the free will determinism. Exact same thing. It's like mix it. So, um, in which one you do whatever one is more helpful or more beautiful, like given the particular goal for like the
Yeah. Wait,
point in
real
time
quick.
you're in. So
I like how you use that word beautiful because like helpful is one thing, but also like beautiful like
I have used I just changed it like while we've been talking. I think help beautiful because I've been thinking about it. Yeah, beautiful is way better than helpful,
I think
even
so
though
too.
people usually mean the same thing. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Because beautiful is like I think it encompasses like the love, like the passion, all of that stuff, the
Yes.
joy. Whereas
Yes.
helpful is
Yes.
like it's helpful or it's not,
It's
you know?
mechanical and materialistic. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I learned just to embrace my strengths. And I've been playing. I mean, I think so much better like since that. So it's too bad. Like it took the Olymp. Like I wish I learned that right before. Or like a couple of weeks before. Like we literally could have like got a medal if I knew that. I really
Wow.
think we like maybe would have given like the route we took in playoffs and stuff. We had like a pretty good draw. But yeah, so I mean, but then I'm so thankful that the Olympics, like something of that pressure was able to teach me. Like the more pressure, the more teaching usually. So I mean, maybe a lesson that big could only have been brought about by something as, strong as the Olympics. So like pressure wise, it really just digs a new groove in your brain somewhere else
Yeah,
that you then like prefer. So
that's cool.
yeah, the strength thing, I learned to embrace my strengths. So strength wise, like I'm not I guarantee you I will win this game type of guy. Like I don't play well when I'm like that. I always wanted to be, and I like saw people who did that and they win a lot, and I was like, I would tell myself in the self talk or whatever, like I'm gonna win, like nothing's gonna stop me. I was trying to like manifest it, stuff like that. It's just so out of character for me. I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll get there, but I'm not. So knowing your place is important, so then you can get to where you want to go. Because I
Yeah.
was just pretending. You know, I wasn't actually like believing that when I was saying it, so it didn't even work. Um, and then it made me like sad because it wouldn't work. And it was just like bad. So I learned to embrace my strengths. I have certain like tactical strengths that I'm good at. I was always kind of trying to hide those and then like surprise people with them. And now it's just like my main thing. And like basically, everyone, I'm like very fine everyone knowing I'm going to do that. Like basically, it's just in volleyball terms or volleyball. Trying to make a new language. Volleyball. That's a more beautiful word than volleyball language.
I
Like
like
that's a
that.
lame name.
That's good.
So I'm trying to make all the new names, but like wrist away when hitting like with your thumb down, it's kind of like throwing in water polo like that way versus like across your body or cut back. So I'm much more wrist away dominant. I think that's a huge archetype for like hitters in volleyball and any overhead throwing thing, but especially volleyball because the angles at which you hit from like a single contact point are so important. So I know wrist away I'm much better at. It's easier on my body for whatever reason. Trying to figure out those reasons like why it's easier so I
Mhm.
can like measure people with volley knowledge and like numerically assign them like a dominance, wrist away or cutback. But like I'm wrist away dominant, so I've embraced that a lot and like try to get cutback so that anything cutback is like hitting it out of bounds. So I have kind of done that a little bit, and I've been playing like way better. So it's cool. Like sort of the fixed mindset helped me get way better than a growth mindset because growth mindset like wanted to be God. I wanted to have everything. You know, like
Right.
how what is the phrase like make the cake and eat it too, or I don't even know exactly what that
Okay.
means, but just that idea, I think. And I just wanted the infinite to be encapsulated in my like finite
Mhm.
being. And then I realized like, you know what, I just hit wrist away and I just hit wrist away only in like a little bit of cutback. I hit like 10 degrees of cutback, like a little bit this way, like just a little bit, and then like everything that way. Like I'm just gonna hit that way. And then that fan actually encompasses the entire court. So I'm chilling. Like the cutback would be out. So you don't want to hit it out, obviously. So that's been good. I learned that. And then as far as like my temperament, personality, like embracing my strengths there, like as you can see ish, like I think a lot. So just embracing that. Like,
Mm.
okay, if I want to win, I have to be thinking like crazy. Like they gotta be maybe feeling their mojo like crazy and being like dancing with the music. To me, I gotta be like in my zone, like problem solving and thinking. So that's what one of our coaches there really helped me learn is like that I'm a problem solver at heart. Like everyone is, but especially me, like I see a problem and I'm like so like it's like my kryptonite too, because I'll like if I were to become a workaholic, which is a bad thing, like because I see problems, I just want to fix them like so much. In kindergarten, apparently I would take like worksheets out of the trash to like do them. I didn't even know that. So I just this is like the kryptonite and strength
Weird.
I've been born with, but the problem solver archetype or whatever, like that is my strength. If I'm going to win, it's going to be because largely of that.
That's cool.
So embracing that, so figuring out what the problems are, and then solutions, and then doing that as fast as possible and like as much as possible during the game. Like that's one of the biggest bang for my buck, time and effort wise is. So focusing on that, and then that like that was a tactical thing, and then that, and then yeah, it's kind of just giving up where like I haven't really figured out a way to get better and just like giving up. I like gave up on a few things. So that's been nice. Like I always wanted to beat everything. And now I've kind of realized like, oh no, you have a certain part of giftings. It's kind of a Christian thing too. Like maybe I'll become the leader archetype who like is just hyping everybody up and like getting everybody motivated. But I was never that. I was always the quiet guy, just trying to be like as good as I can in my lane and like maybe as at best I would lead by example, like at best. So, but not by like talking and like hyping
Mhm.
people up. So in college, I did that, but I was insecure about it. Now, if I went back to college, I would just do that and embrace it. I just be like, yeah, I'm not going to be a captain. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's not for me. Like I'm like a hand. I'm like a really good hand. I'm not the head of the body, like a really, really good hand. So I know that, and I'm just gonna like just be as good a hand as I can. And maybe I'll grow from the hand to the arm to the shoulder to the neck to the head, but it's gonna be in that order. I'm not just gonna jump to the head. So like my first step would be to learn how to be like the full arm, because
Yeah.
I'm just a hand right now in this analogy. And same thing with the body of Christ. Like if you're trying to like Christianize your culture, like figure out your strength or just your church or just grow like the Plus podcast, like whatever you're good at, like you want to hone in on that. Find partners who are good at what you're not, and then you can have like a full functioning like body that's like legit. If you just have like five hands and no head, you're screwed. So like you can't do that. So you gotta have someone like fake or like do their best to be a head or something, or kind of like take a fifth of the head each. Like that can work too. But you need a head and you need a body for any like business or being or you or like church body or any kind of group to like do anything useful or beautiful. So that's huge.
That's good.
So I figured out my strengths, and that really helped me be more confident. But in the Olympics, I first game was like really. I sprained my ankle like 2 days before the Olympics started, like the first game. But like it was a first degree sprain, like there's 3 degrees, so it wasn't that bad. But it was still bad. I think I lost like 6 to 8 inches on my jump, which sucks. But it was like so close to getting better. Like 2 days later, I think I got my jump back. But it was like, and then I didn't like our first game. I didn't like appreciate that, and then adjust my offensive band accordingly. And I just pretended I was like 8 inches higher in the air, and I wasn't. So I didn't know my place.
Mm.
I just wished my place, and we lost. And like, given how they played, they didn't play very well. They looked like they did, but honestly, for them, that team we played was really good. I didn't play there. So like, we could have won, but uh, I honestly say we should have won, given how they played.
Yeah.
Um, but my ankle was messed up, and they're a really good team. Like on a lot of other days, they should beat us too. That's like a really good team we played. We played Cuba, um, but we had beaten them like all the other times we played them. But they're getting better, and we were kind of getting worse because of like I was spiraling. Like I was like trying to work on my weaknesses so much and like neglect my strengths, and
Mm.
that like I love practicing like not that hard. I love it. I just don't like practicing hard. Okay. So when you're with all these pros and they're like trying to grind and that's like their job and they have families and stuff and you see them working hard, I was like, oh, maybe I should like practice as hard as I can physically. Um, so I tried that and doing it, I got a little injured. And then now I'm back. I don't practice very hard anymore, but my mind is working really, really hard. And I found that if I want my mind to work really, really hard, and that's my strength, then I can't work as hard with my body. I only have like 100% of like oomph, and like
Yeah.
I got to give like 80% to my mind. So I can only give 20 to my body. And then when I play, it sort of flips. And I give 80% to my body, 20% to my mind. And I've found that's a great formula for me. Or maybe like 50-50. When I play, the body definitely goes up. But in practice, I don't hit hard. I'll run fast, but I won't jump or hit hard. And that I feel like I can play longer. I'm like a little bit injured, so I'll be able to not like
And how?
make
Just
that
like,
worse. And then so yeah, that's the main thing I learned from the Olympics, and I wish I had learned it earlier, but I think it was the perfect time.
and just out of curiosity, so like, I don't know, I have a few questions, but like, based on that, what you just said, let's say you're practicing with a bunch of pros or like your partner or whatever, and they're all going 100%, and you're kind of just like taking L's because of that, because you're only going 30
Hmm.
or
You have to
whatever.
accept that.
And you're
Yeah.
just okay, you're like, okay, like that's not gonna bring me down, that's not gonna bring me up. Like I know what I'm focusing on right now.
Well, it's nice. It forces you to find ways to get W's like at a like a lower physical
Uh,
exertion level, and then when you
uh,
play, you're like I think it even made it's like better. Even if I was like not that mentally strong, I'd be like, yeah, like why don't I just I don't know. I probably exert myself more, but for sure you can't practice as long. Like reps in a lot of ways are king, like repetition.
right.
So you can't get as many reps if you're going all out. Like that's a huge thing in strength and conditioning. You can do more reps and like less weight or less reps and more weight, but you can't do more reps and more weight or no, yeah, more reps and more weight or less reps. Less reps and less weight is like not doing anything. So
Right.
like pick your pick. That's like the thing. It's like pick your like ratio of like physical and mental. You can't just have it all. So like I'm better at mental, so I'm gonna go a little heavier on the mental. Some people are better at physical. They should do that.
Right.
And same thing with like free will and determinism, like for the ultimate cosmos,
Yeah.
like kind of expanding from the sport one. Like pick what's most beautiful for you, like whatever makes you the best person within that. Like both are sort of legal in God's
Yeah.
world. They both
Yeah.
have like decent arguments for them. So
I feel like the theme of like this conversation has more just been like harnessing the gifts that God has given you and like just being
exactly.
in that. Cause like,
Yeah. And
yeah,
not going out of that.
what do you say?
Like and what as far as you can, like not straying out of that too much.
Right.
Or at least knowing if you are, you're in like you're weaker human.
Right.
Feel like
Right. Cause
exposed.
and
Yeah.
cause for you, I mean, you found like a balance in your training, you found a balance in like the mental side of things. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if how other people would do that if they didn't have a relationship with God, like what they would tie that into. But with that common like faith, if
They could just study the sport cosmos and learn everything I just said without knowing anything about God. That's what I think is so cool about sports is it's like it's like a window into God. So you just if you know sports really well, you're really prepared. If you know any cosmos or like microcosm really well, you know God. You're poised to know God really well. That's why it's nice to master anything. You can just master like anything, even if it's not commercially valuable just to get really, really good at anything, I think really helps because then a lot of those principles point like directly at God.
mm,
So I think you could, even if you're a non-Christian playing sports, but it's like a inevitable track like to point you higher and higher. I think it's like pretty inevitable. It's like it's more inevitable than not.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
mastering something in that framework and like this guy Jordan Peterson says the same thing, like being excellent at something is like a moral duty because it like points your I mean, you're just going higher and higher in your own little microcosm, but that microcosm is under God's, and so you're going to get closer to His if you get higher in yours, or closer to His tip if you get closer to your tip, and then you can like jump into God's from there, like you're closer.
Right. And
So
if everything is like ultimately created by God, getting really good at something is or I guess diving into something can really always be a reflection of God. If I don't know if
it's a
that
reflection of God. Yeah, it's a representation. Like it presents it again, a
so
represent, and
interesting.
then like it's an analogy. It's like God. So getting really, really good at sports is like getting really, really good at knowing God. If you really, really, really know volleyball in the most pure, like appropriate way, where it'll like make you the best athlete possible, you just like translate all the words from Polish into Christianese, and then you're like a pro Christian. I'm serious. Like you'll be like a seriously like very like mature and like strong believer. I really, really think that's the mission of like volley knowledge. I'm going to use volleyball and my credibility there to know that sport so there can be knowledge of God like through that. But I'm going to start with volleyball.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately knowledge about God himself.
Right.
Um, or something higher than the sport.
Right. Right. Like not like having it start at sport, but not having it end there because there's so much past that that
Yeah.
we can access. That's
Yeah. But even if you treat it as an idol and you end it there, once you sort of shatter the window or the glass ceiling of that idol or the opaque like black ceiling of it and you can see through it. So like regardless, like if you're getting good at anything, whether it's an idol or not, it's probably better if it's not so you can see God on the way up there. But even if you just get up there and then a lot of people when they get to the top of something, they realize, oh, how much is there left? Like life, what else is there to life? I'm at the top of this cosmos. Like it obviously isn't satisfying. Like what else is there? And then at that point, they would start to look even higher. And since the sport is completely below them because they've mastered it, now they're looking up and they're like, what else is there? And then it will inevitably lead to a higher power kind of thing. And for me, and I think in a sort of beautiful way to look up like that is to see God himself of like the Bible type of
yeah.
thing. But
That's
like
cool.
that's why I think it's good because you're getting closer to God. And then you only have that mountaintop experience where you're like, what else is there to life if you get to the mountaintop?
Right.
But you can also get to like meaty ones on the way too.
Right.
And
And
like
work.
simulate it and be like, if this keeps happening, I'm gonna get to the top. And I guarantee you, like, but it's nice to know if you get to the top of one thing, you know all the other tops are similar. So you
Yeah.
won't be deceived again. So if
Right.
you're like this giant businessman and like you get to the top of that and like the richest man in the world, you're like, oh, okay, I know it's gonna happen there. It's not gonna satisfy me. It's not gonna be worth it. You got to make sure to have like an appropriate like beautiful or hierarchical identity that starts with God and then trickles down to businessman. It's not like in another order. So I think mastering something as I'm thinking of it now, and as I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about it, Ayn Rand is another philosopher. She was secular, but she still reasoned that the pursuit of excellence is one of the greatest moral goods because it's just if God is up top and you're moving up in anything, you're getting closer. I mean, she called it. I don't know what she called. She was a secular person, but there's a Christian like equivalent um, that's like more beautiful. But it's still similar.
That's cool. That's cool. And not to say that God can't work among that path, right? And there's this book called Hind's Feet in High Places that kind of it's like a
What's it called?
Hind's Feet in High Places, Hinds feet in
Okay.
high places. And it's like kind of a giant metaphor about like our path to like heaven and our path to God and like
Yeah.
it's just such an interesting book and it's really cool. I loved it. But it's like definitely a thinker. Like you have to like be willing to look into the metaphor. Um but yeah,
Yeah. Metaphors are king.
go ahead.
Metaphors are king for learning, or like analogies.
Right,
That's
right.
the
I
only way to
think
learn.
some of the best, yeah, some of the most powerful works I've read have worked in that way, especially because they challenge
Yeah.
you to think, right? Like instead of just telling
Yeah.
you, it's like no, no, no,
Exactly.
think about this for yourself. Which
Exactly.
I feel like we don't
They
like to do.
force that. Yeah. School like deprograms that in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. The
yeah,
way they teach. Not everyone.
yeah. Um, okay, well, I don't want to take up any more of your time because you've been here on here a while, but okay, I guess like just what are you focusing on now? Both like training wise, it sounds like you kind of talked about it already, but also just like faith wise, mentally wise, like what's been on your heart now as you transition out of that Olympic season. I guess it's been like almost 2 months since you've been back. Um,
Yeah.
and then I know you're still playing a lot of games, so yeah, just curious what's going on.
Yeah, there's the ADP Association of Volleyball Professionals. It's like the domestic tour where they have tournaments that they tour around the country. So there's like three more of those for me and my teammate Andy. If those in the next 2 months, after that, there's like a 3-ish month break. Like we're choosing to take that break, and then we'll go to more tournaments after that. I think that's like logistics. As far as like my life and stuff, I think yeah, stay in shape, keep working out. I really like strength training. Like the idea of it and doing it. And I have a great strength trainer, and he's cool. And hopefully, we can work together on some stuff going forward with volley knowledge and his strength training business. But then, like right now, what's getting me most excited is starting volley knowledge, which I'm wearing the shirt for people in the video, and the logo is like two trees. You can see that. My high def camera is playing
That's
up.
awesome.
I don't even know if it's high def on your end, but it is supposed to be 4K. But it's like two trees like connected by a net, and then like there's a person setting in the middle, which is me, but it's supposed to represent anybody. I might take the person out at some point, so it's
I
just.
like the person. I feel like it's
But
good.
I'm gonna,
I mean, if you keep it,
yeah, yeah. I think it's good, but I do want it to be bigger than me, and it is literally like a silhouette of me, like with my hat, like the way I wear my hat.
you get to start.
But it's cool. But the trees and the net represent a lot of Genesis, and there's the circle or the cyclical thing around it, which is like a snake. So it's harkening back to the Genesis story, but the volleyball version of it. Because my goal, like I said at the beginning, is to like shoot an arrow of attention like up the volleyball mountain and then through it and then like up to higher mountains and ultimately like God's mountain. So that's like my sort of picture of the volley knowledge thing. And knowledge is the unity of heaven and earth. So knowledge is like our role as humans is to unite heaven and earth, or to know it or to be knowers of it. So volley knowledge hopefully can help create volley knowers, and in knowing volleyball microcosm can know the ultimate one, ultimate cosm or the whole cosmos or God's world. So that's what I'm working on now. I got the studio, this like lame looking studio from your angle, but I have some really cool directions. There are really cool decorations on my desk right now, but like I didn't realize like the camera doesn't care. Like you're just looking at this empty wall. So I'll get a bunch of like decorations soon, but I just wanted to do a few things first before I start like hammering in shelves. But this will be my studio. I want to do some podcasts and stuff, kind of like you're doing. But first explaining the volleyball cosm. Um, and like you said, metaphors and like another kind of same word for that is analogy. So I want to teach through analogies almost exclusively, stories, analogies, and opposites and trinities or trinities. So that's kind of the same as opposites. But I want to teach the volleyball cosm through that, through those frameworks that help me kind of organize it in my head. And then hopefully people can export that to their cosm, like if they're volleyball, then their own volleyball, but then like other cosms. So that's what I'm working on. Hopefully it'll have a website, like a forum, have a community vibe, have like a song, a logo, like a members only handshake, and then like a public handshake. So it's like it'll mean something to be a part of like the ball knowledge community. It's not just gonna be like anything. So
Yeah.
I've been yeah. So that's what I'm gonna be working on, and then hopefully leveraging the credibility or ethos I have in the volleyball space, like you mentioned, to like fan that in the flame, and then hopefully like that won't matter anymore. But for now, it does. So I'm trying to connect it to me. So that's why it says like by Miles Partain on the bottom. If you can see it, it
Yeah, yeah.
says by Miles Partain, but like I don't want that there ultimately. I think because I want it to be bigger than me, and I just like I'm not that big, so I can't. But you can extend yourself, but only so much. So that's my plan now. Make volley knowledge as big as I can, but it's just a baby right now. I haven't even like done anything. So I've done a little bit, but it's the ideas are brewing, and I think there's a lot there. I gotta say it in a way that people like appreciate it, given their context. So I'm working through that because I think there's a lot of ways to say what I'm thinking that just go over people's head, and like it's super simple. And
Yeah.
they think way more complicated things than what I'm saying, so I know they can get it. So I just have to figure out a way to like communicate it, which will be a cool journey in itself. And yeah, so yeah, do the volleyball and stuff. I plan to do the next Olympics, try and like market it and build it alongside that.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, I'd like to be like more public on social media, like those blog posts you were reading were like captions on old Instagram posts. I kind of stopped doing that a bit because it just seemed like it was good, but now that I have volley knowledge to like support like above me, I'm not just doing it for me. Even though I was like kind of trying to do it for God, like with those captions that were like more God focused, but this is way cooler. I'm way more motivated. So like that's cool. So I'm just trying to do that and then play and then like kind of trying to be a bit more involved at a church, local church around me and living at home too. And yeah, it's been good. So that's the plan for the next several months.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, we'll see where it goes. I hope I can get like strength training and like sort of sports psych training
Yeah.
within volley knowledge. So it'll be those three cosms, but they're all under the volleyball one in a
Hmm.
way, where they can apply to it. So I want to take a lot of the sports psych one, but I want my strength trainer now, maybe, to help with the other one because that
Yeah.
one's a beast that I'd probably want to delegate. But the other stuff, unless I find like a great partner, I'll take care of releasing that content. So, and then the philosophy side of it too, that'll probably be a more niche crowd, but that's the side I want to ultimately go into. I want to join the ranks of like Jordan Peterson and this guy who wrote the book that this logo is based off of. But I'm like a baby in that world. So I kind of have seen what it's like to get to the top of volleyball, closer to it. I'm not even close to the ultimate top of it, but closer to it. So I want to see if I could do that in like the podcasting, website building, influencer, sort of cultural commentator realm. So yeah, we'll see.
That's cool.
But
I like how you're
that's
starting. I like how you're
cool.
starting within something that's very, I guess like attainable slash like within your role, right? And then,
Yeah, that's like the strength. Yeah.
right, it's talking about your strengths. You're talking about your strengths, and then,
Yeah.
but you're not stopping the dream there, right? Like you still want it to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Ultimately. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
a
mean, take
journey.
it day by day, but that's awesome. And I was gonna
Yeah.
say, like, I don't know how many volleyball players listen to this, but if you are a volleyball player, go check out Volley Knowledge. And even if you're not, I feel like this could be like
When it's ready.
you were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
I'm gonna release stuff slowly. I'm a one man show, so there's
Okay,
not
well,
much there, but the website's coming, email list. Definitely if you think it's valuable to you, sign up for
at
the
least follow
email list.
Instagram. We can get
Yeah, and then there's Instagram stuff too, and we'll have skits too, because those are cool.
yeah, that's
You know
cool.
the one person skits where you're like the same person and like the
Yeah,
answer the rest.
yeah, yeah.
It's
You're
like
crazy.
so stupid.
Totally.
It's so stupid that it's funny. I love it. So
Gotta keep
hope to
it.
do that with some of the volleyball
But even as to say,
stuff.
like, if you're not volleyball necessarily, like, I feel like there are going to be things within this once you get it going that like every sport can relate to, like we were talking about before.
Yeah,
All
I'll uncover a framework if it's like a legit, like efficient framework to like learn things, which I think it is. Like I'll uncover it while doing volleyball, and then maybe I could cover other sports too that I know nothing about. But I do know like the other concepts that I'll transfer. So
that's cool.
we'll see. Yeah,
Gotta start somewhere. That's awesome. Um,
yeah,
well, thanks, Miles, for coming on today. This is a great conversation. Lots of
yeah. That's awesome.
I got to think more about like half the things we talked about, but it's cool. So I hope it encourages other people to think more
Yeah,
too.
thanks,
I
guy.
think
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully.